Well, good evening, my friends. Welcome to a Carpo Ramble. I guess I should entitle this "Why Should I Give a Shit?" And it's funny because I don't really want to say that with, any type of anger or arrogance. Nor do I want to just say it with a grain of salt because I mean it. I have this attitude in life of show me the money. And I'm not talking about money itself. I'm saying if you're going to make a claim about something, you better be able to back it up with at least a little bit of ample evidence that's maybe subjective to someone. Objective would be preferred. But we live in a world where there are a lot of claims thrown around these days, and it becomes frustrating. Becomes frustrating to know what to believe and what to think, and there's a lot of people with a lot of different ideas out there. And I definitely don't think I have it figured out. In fact, some of the things that I used to believe, I don't believe anymore, and some of the things that I stopped believing, I may end up starting to believe again. But ultimately, my point here is that it comes down to what does what you know do for you? Now, if you get merely just an excitement off of thinking that there's a hidden agenda behind the world and that whatever it may be, people have very particular, specific views, it may just serve to make your life more exciting. Let's say the Flat Earth Society or those who spend their whole time worrying about government conspiracies. That's what interests them, and they believe that's important. And at one time I did too, until I started to realize that the only conspiracy worth revealing is the one that helps the people. And I could say, well, plenty of people believe that there's a conspiracy with aliens to rule the world or reptilians or whatnot, and they're welcome to believe whatever they like. I stopped questioning whether or not it was true and started asking myself, what good would it do to know whether it was true? And I think that was a major turning point in my life, where I was able to finally see things clearly for the first time. To say, not what do I think's going on in the world, or even what is going on in the world, but which things going on in the world can I change, and which can affect me. It reminds me of the old Alcoholics Anonymous saying. They always say it before a meeting. They say, God grant me the serenity to accept the things I cannot change, to change the things I can, and the wisdom to note the difference. And even though I always despised AA, I was forced to go for probation years back, and that saying always stuck with me because I believed it. And I knew it was true. You cannot change certain things in life. So when it comes to things that we believe or think, whether it become a hollow earth, a flat earth, a hollow moon, I've heard so many different theories about Nibiru and various, conspiracies, archons, folks who are channeling creatures from other dimensions and whatnot. Some of this may very well be true, and in fact, I'm pretty convinced that some of it is. Demons, gods, ancient history, all these things are skewed and misunderstood, but stepping back from it because of the confusion it all promotes, all the different people who have different views. In fact, I could give, an example of any one conspiracy. I guess the one I'll use is chemtrails. Some people believe that they're spraying military chaff, aluminum. Some people believe they're spraying barium. Some people believe that they're spraying molecules that give us Morgellons disease. Some people believe that they're spraying actual genetic material. Some people say they're spraying blood. But there's no consensus even among those who believe, which leads me to believe that it's one of those issues that I have to say I just don't know and don't care at this point. It does no good to know or to try to understand if there's no consensus reality about what's really going on. That might seem short-sighted to some people who say, well, you've just got to dig deeper. But honestly, I've come to the point in the conspiracy world where I've dug too deep. I started in the late 90s, and I've worked my way through all the nonsense and realized and been able to step back and shake my head at myself and say, you have a couple choices, dude. You can either realize what you've realized and that you've been a fool and then just walk away respectfully from it, or you can speak up and start picking apart the theories of people who believe this stuff, which I don't want to do either, because they'll find it in their own time. Or the third option, which is to try to plant the seed of truth that I find in others in hopes that they don't spend their time dedicated to worrying about things they cannot change, and try to accept the things that they can change. One of the biggest frustrations to me is when I see folks who are talking about how their cities are polluted and they're blaming, let's say, chemtrails. And I say, look at the factory down the street from your house. Look at where this real pollution is really coming from. There are people laughing at people who believe things like this because there's some truth to it, just enough to where people believe it. And the military has sprayed chaff, and there are many different tests going on with cloud seeding, and I don't deny that. I understand that. But that, and I probably shouldn't have used chemtrails because I don't want to offend anybody's particular beliefs, but it's one of those things I feel like I have to call out. Let's say they are spraying from every single airplane in the sky chemicals. What are you going to do about it? Do you think that getting a coalition together to stop every airplane is going to work? Absolutely not. So you're armed with only some subjective opinions and a little bit of evidence we found on the internet, and we start to support these things and repeat the things that we've heard, and it's hard to discuss them sometimes. I want to believe that all people are capable of understanding things on a level that's worthy to them. If a person finds that they want to believe a certain thing that makes them happy, so be it. Whether it be religion, politics. But I feel like when people are called out on a particular thing, they need to be armed with at least the evidence to defend their opinion or their belief, or else the ability to change and sway as they learn new things. Otherwise, name-calling ensues, ad hominem attacks, the words like shill, disinformant, And these things are not just random. These things pop up all over. We see repeated behaviors over and over on the internet, and it's not the internet's fault. It's not technology's fault. It's human imprint of our misunderstanding of the world we live in. It's our way of kind of pushing what we think might be true in hopes of understanding it on a simpler level. So to be brutally honest, I see most conspiracy theories as trying to put a more complex approach on something that's just downright simple and misunderstood, that will never be understood. Because the more stories we create about our reality, the more color we can lend to situations we don't understand. Thousands of years from now, people may look back on this earth and find our remains and see that we dropped nukes on Japan and say, it must have been some super magical energy weapon or something. I had this idea in mind. It just popped into my head. Just the things that the future generations might think about ours, just based on what they see and what they read in the pictures. And then when you get right down to the basics, it may not be as complex as a person might think. I won't deny that life is the most complex thing that anybody can imagine, and since there's nothing to compare life to, it's difficult to say it's one thing or another. You can't say this life is bad or this life is good. It just is, because we're alive. But I truly believe that logic is our savior, and our best bet to understand the world is not just using our common sense or our logic, but what previous generations have taught us and brought us and shown us. I used to think that I envied people who lived in a pipe dream, but now I realize there's absolutely no way I would want to live in a delusional state. I do have maybe my own delusions, but they're mine. Take care, everyone.